Every kid loves toys, there's no secret, but then again, maybe some of these should be. From the scary to the downright bizarre, these are some of the weirdest toys that ever hit the shelves. Be warned, some of them could give even Chucky the creeps. Hugo, man of 1,000 faces. Back in my day, there were some pretty strange toys that came and went, but one that stands out like a sore thumb in my memory is the puppet they call Hugo, man of 1,000 faces. Now that was a real head-scratcher, let me tell you. Hugo was a puppet like no other. This thing was about a foot tall, made of plastic, and had a head that you could swap out with all sorts of bizarre faces. I mean, it's called Man of 1,000 Faces for a reason. They had a heap of them. Goofy grins, scary scowls, and even some that looked like they came straight from another planet. There were also wigs, glasses, mustaches, beards, hats, you name it. You could turn this puppet into a detective, a cowboy, a mad scientist, or even a space alien. The possibilities were truly endless, and that's where the weirdness started to creep in. You see, the thing about Hugo was that he walked the line between playful and downright eerie. Sure, it was all in good fun to change his face and make him into different characters, but there was something about those blank, soulless eyes that gives you the heebie-jeebies. But you know, that's probably why Hugo became such a sensation. We couldn't quite figure out whether to laugh or shudder when we played with him. He was so creepy that he became a hot topic over recess. I think that the weirdness factor is what kept him in the memories of folks like me who grew up with him. Ventriloquist dummies were already unsettling enough, and then they went and added this shapeshifter of a twist. It's no wonder that the toy didn't stick around for too long. It was just a bit too strange, a bit too unsettling for most people. But hey, they can't say it wasn't memorable. I mean, look at us, we're still talking about him now. Jolly Chimp. Another off-kilter toy I remember was Jolly Chimp, a little mechanical monkey that made you ask yourself why you bought it in the first place. Jolly Chimp was a small, squatting monkey toy with symbols in his hands. Now, what made him a bit off-putting was what he did when you wound him up. You'd twist that key in his back and he'd start clashing his symbols together while moving his head back and forth. Let me tell you, the sound he made, a high-pitched mechanical screech, it sent shivers down my spine, especially at night. And if that weren't strange enough, Jolly Chimp had a creepy red outline on both of his eyeballs. It looked to me like he's been staring at you for so long that his eyes were starting to get sore. No wonder he was cast in Toy Story 3 as Lotso's chief surveillance officer in Sunnyside Daycare. I'm sure the moms and dads who took their kid to see that movie had a bit of a jump scare when Jolly Chimp popped up on the screen. Still, strange as it was, Jolly Chimp had a way of being oddly endearing. There's still a place in my heart for that clanging monkey from the past. Skinny Bones. Ah, Skinny Bones. If you've ever seen him, you know how frightening of a sight he is. Now, for those of you who haven't seen Skinny Bones, let me paint a picture for you. Take a human head, human hands, and human feet, then put it on a stick figure of a body. That's pretty much what you get with this abomination. It didn't help that the head looked like it was taken from a creepy doll. No, seriously. But what really set me off about Skinny Bones was the fact that he was as tall as an actual kid. This toy looked like a child that hasn't been fed in a long time. I used to have nightmares about Skinny Bones coming to life and coming after me. And if that wasn't enough to give you the creeps, don't worry, the Bones family has plenty more in store. You can get Skinny's female counterpart, Ginny Bones, Skinny's trusted steed, or even his dog called Ham. Weird name for such a skinny mutt, if you ask me. Baby Laugh-A-Lot. Baby Laugh-A-Lot was really something, I can tell you that much. It was a plastic doll, a bit smaller than a real baby, but with a face that could light up a room or send shivers down your spine depending on how you see it. She came in a rocking chair and a smile that looked a little too friendly. What made Baby Laugh-A-Lot different from other dolls was her ability to, well, laugh. You see, you'd wind her up with a little key in the back and she'd start to giggle and laugh in this almost robotic way, but it veered less into cute territory and more towards the eerie side of things. And the laugh was like a cross between a child's giggle and the creaking of an old swing set. That mechanical, repetitive sound could get your heart pumping, especially if you heard it in a dark room. I'm guessing that this was an attempt to capture the innocence of a child's laughter, but ended up wandering into spooky land. Dolls are supposed to be cute and cuddly, but this one just made the hair on your neck stand up. It's like they tried to mix childhood joy with a touch of horror. For many kids around the neighborhood, it was a toy that was just a bit too strange for comfort. It's funny how sometimes the things that are meant to bring joy can end up blurring the line between charm and creepiness. And Baby Laugh-A-Lot was certainly one of those toys that could make you scratch your head and think, why does this thing even exist? Feeling frightened yet? I promise to take things down a notch with the next one if you promise to like the video. And keep an eye out for the last one because it's definitely keeping an eye out for you. Stretch Armstrong. Stretch Armstrong was a big, muscly figure made of rubber. He was built like a bodybuilder with bulging muscles and chiseled jawline. But what made Stretch so weird was his, well, stretchiness. You could grab his arms or legs and pull them, and Mr. Armstrong would stretch and stretch like there was no end to it. He looked an awful lot like a piece of taffy getting pulled in many directions. But Stretch Armstrong wasn't just about stretching. Oh no, he was a bit of a tough fella too. You could twist and contort him in all sorts of ways, and he didn't spring right back to his original shape. He had some sort of magical resilience, which was something that amused us kids to no end. So how did we play with Stretch Armstrong? Well, we'd stretch him, of course. We'd see just how far we could pull his limbs before they snapped back, giggling like fools the whole time. We'd twist him into all sorts of silly poses, making him look like he was doing yoga or some sort of funky dance. And every time we'd play with him, he'd just pop right back into shape. And of course, giving Stretch Armstrong to kids with such active imaginations only meant bad news for him. You can tell that he was about to go through countless methods of torture, but hey, that was all part of the fun. But as much as Stretch Armstrong was, he wasn't invincible. Now and then, if you stretched him a little too far or pulled a bit too hard, that rubber would tear and you'd have yourself a bit of a mess on your hands. But even then, we'd patch him up as best we could and keep on playing. Because that's what we did with toys you loved. Stretch Armstrong was a combination of strength and stretchiness that left us kids both amazed and entertained, and even though it might have been a bit odd, he's a part of the memories that bring a smile to my face even to this day. Inchworm. The Inchworm might not have been the creepies, but it sure was a weird one. Oh boy, that little critter could put a smile on any young buck's face, including little Marshall's. The Inchworm was a bright green-colored plastic creature that looked like the cross between a caterpillar and a pogo stick. It had a long, curvy body with wheels at each end and hurdles for the youngins to grab onto. Now, what made the Inchworm so funny-looking was the way it moved. You'd sit yourself down on its saddle-like seat, grip them handles tight, and start bouncing. The wheels at the ends of the body would propel you forward with each bounce. It felt like you were part of some wild, wiggling parade float, making your way through the neighborhood with big old grin plastered on your face. Either that, or it would make you feel like you were in a bug's life. Riding around on that Inchworm was a hoot and a holler. It was the kind of fun that took you places. Even if you were just looping around the driveway, you'd bounce up and down, the Inchworm rolling along with you. And before you knew it, you'd be laughing and whooping like there was no tomorrow. So when I think back to the weirdest toys of my youth, the Inchworm might not have been the strangest, but it sure was one of the quirkiest and most entertaining. It's the kind of memory that still brings a smile to my face, and I'm sure that any young fella who hopped on the back of that wiggly wonder would agree. Little Miss No Name. Let's take things back to creepy territory with Little Miss No Name. Now, you've heard of Barbie dolls, all glammed up and pretty as a picture, but this doll, she was a whole different story. Little Miss No Name was a doll that felt out of place in a world of frills and finery. She stood about 15 inches tall with big, sad eyes that seemed to look right into your soul. But what set her apart was her appearance. She didn't have the fancy dresses or the polished hair that you'd see on other dolls. Nope, she was dressed in rags. Her hair was unkempt and she had these tear marks painted on her cheeks. Compared to Barbie dolls, Little Miss No Name was a world apart. Barbie dolls were all about fashion, glamour, and portraying an idolized image. But this little gal, she was like a dose of reality in a world of make-believe. She was meant to evoke empathy and make you think about those less fortunate, and made her a bit of a head-scratcher for a toy. And yes, she was very creepy in her own way. Little Miss No Name's sad eyes and that downtrodden appearance, well, they could have you going back to the toy store for a refund. But I think that's what made her so intriguing. She wasn't trying to be glamorous or exciting. She was just being herself, as odd as that might seem for a doll. So I'll be honest, Little Miss No Name wasn't the sort of doll whose folks would choose for tea parties or dress-up games. She was more of a conversation starter, a reminder that not all playthings were meant to be perfect or pretty. She had a way of making you think, even as a youngster, about the world beyond the realm of toys. And there you have it. Which one of these toys creeped you out as a kid? Which ones made you smile? Share your story in the comment section below, and if you liked the video, please consider subscribing to the channel, and thanks for watching.